What's good, Buff Nation? We're continuing our preview. We got to talk about one of them squads. We got to travel across the country to play. This game's going to be intriguing because it's going to be another team that has a bunch of transfers. So it feels like a whole new squad, just like with the Buffs. But I'll say this. There's an opportunity here to really show and flex the muscles, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So let's dive into that. Now, this video is presented by our partners over at BetUS. Make sure you check them out. 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. They're showing a lot of love to the bettor. So check them out in the description below as well as in the pinned comment. So let's dive into what's going on here with the game between Colorado and the next one on the list, which is who? UCF, right? We'll be traveling over to UCF to play that game. And so we got to ask ourselves, all right, how do we feel about traveling to Orlando, to that nice stadium, and play against UCF? Let's look at all the details on them and dive right into it. So this game, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to UCF, right? Gus Malzahn is there in his 4th season. Sitting at a record about 24-116. And so for them, last season, they made a bowl game. They went 6-7. They lost to Tech in that bowl game. And now the big thing for them is, man, this is our first meeting with UCF, so it's black and gold versus black and gold. It's going to be kind of fascinating, but there's a lot of things that's changed for UCF over the summer. So a lot of players to kind of prepare for. And so let's talk about those key players on the offense and the defensive side. But first, coming in last season, their overall rank was at 28th, right, on the efficiency scale, 19th on offense, 51st on defense. So they weren't too great defensively, but they had a solid offense. Well, middle of the pack on defense, but they were solid offensively. Returning production for them on this scale is sitting at about 62% coming back in total, with 59% offense and 65% on the defensive side. So they're bringing back decent amount of players. Offensively is kind of low. They're ranked 75th, but I mean, bringing back over half your players is actually a solid thing. And as I mentioned, when it comes to the transfer side, 26 transfers are incoming, and they're bringing in 21 into their class. Let's look at the offense, though. This is the side of the ball that's really going to jump out to everybody because this is where all the firepower is at. Gus Malzahn did some work, went out there and got one of the big quarterbacks in the portal, and he's legitimately big. KJ Jefferson. He's a former starter from Arkansas. Played that the last 3 years, and KJ's one of them big dudes, and he's considered one of the best QBs in the country. I'm not sure where he would end up getting drafted, but he's considered a pretty good guy, right? He threw for 2,100 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 picks, while rushing for over 400 yards and 2 scores. And so the seasons before, he was dealing with injuries and stuff, but the seasons before and combined, over 7,000 yards and 64 touchdowns, right? Rushing for 1,700 yards over these past 3 seasons. He's one of those quarterbacks that knows how to make things happen when he needs to, and he's willing to go out there and make a play. So for Colorado, the big thing is containing him, right? The other thing that the UCF went out there, the Knights did, they went out and got another running back, right? The returning running back, R.J. Harvey, rushed for 1,400 yards last season. He's one of 5 backs to have 16 touchdowns or more. And he's one of the few that have 1,400 yards. There's not very many players out there in college football that had 1,400 plus yards rushing in him. Well, they also added Penny Boone from Toledo. He had 1,400 yards rushing. So they've got a backfield that's going to be something to keep our eyes on. So this is going to really test the offensive side of the ball for Colorado. My expectation is Colorado's going to have to defensively show. By this time, we'll have a good understanding of what the team is. But I think that the edges, the linebacker room, especially as stout as they've been, they'll be able to be prepared for this running game, be able to take them out. Now, Gus Malzahn is infamous for all kinds of all over the place plays, so we got to be careful with that, right? So, all right, let's talk about defensively what Colorado has to keep in mind, some of the key players there at UCF. But first, word from a sponsor. So y'all know, shout out to BetUS. They are taking care of us here at Primetime College Football, giving you 125% on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. That is right. They're taking care of you all. And so some of the bets I've looked at in here, where you can go in and search Colorado, which is awesome. Look at the Big 12 champions. Colorado is sitting here at plus 2,400. A bet that I would say looks pretty juicy, right? Plus 2,400 is a pretty solid number. Puts them right there, I mean, honestly, in the bottom half. But that don't mean that Colorado can't shock the world like they've been doing the last few years. So check them out. BetUS, link in the description below as well as in the pinned comment. They're giving you 125% on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 as well as 10% back twice a year on your net losses. That's huge. I don't know nobody else doing that. They're taking care of you all. So check out our people over there at BetUS. Now, defensively, Colorado's got some work to do, especially going up against UCF, right? One of the big players to look at, defensive line. As we know, Colorado's revamped its whole offensive line, especially after last year's performance. I'm sensing that they're prepared for this one, right? So you've got defensive tackle Lee Hunter. He's like 320-pound D tackle, 4th-year junior. But this is his first time starting. But he is one player that's considered someone to keep your eyes out for, right? He was all Big 12 honorable mention last year, 69 tackles, which was 3rd on the team, as well as 11 tackles for the loss. He's not somebody to be trifled with, right? Like I said, by this time, we'll have a good understanding of what this Colorado offensive line is going to look like, what this defense is going to be, what offense is going to be. And so at this point, we should know that if there's really any concerns or if it's still questions or whatnot going into this game. But Hunter is one to keep your eyes on, as well as Malachi Lewis. He's another one on the defensive line, which for them, their defensive line is going to be very, very solid. So the offensive line is going to be put to the test. Since, Phil Loadholt's going to have a plan for this, but at the same time, it's something to keep in mind when it goes into this game, because that's what UCF is going to want to do. They're going to want to muddy up everything in the line, in the trenches, and try to win the game from there. So as long as Colorado does what needs to be done, as long as that offensive line gives Shedeur just enough time, I think he can pick apart that secondary, because I'm not very high on that secondary there at UCF. I think that's secondary that can be picked apart by Shedeur, as well as with how elite the wide receiver room is. So we'll keep an eye out for that one. And for me, I think that the Buffs have a chance. I'm leaning to Colorado having a chance to pull this one out, knock off UCF, teach them a lesson. But it's going to be a travel cross country. By then, like I said, we'll have an understanding of both teams. And I think that Colorado is sitting in a good position as long as the offensive line and the defense shows up like we expect. So let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. We would love to hear from you all. Shout out to our partners over at BetUS for sponsoring this video. Been a great partner. Check them out. Link in the description below as well as in the pinned comment. They're providing you 125% up on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. So check them out. Link description below. Let them know that we sent you. You can check out most of the rest of the series here. This link right here. And of course, hit that subscribe button. Talk soon.